The Corbett Report is brought to you by the 2010 Video Archive DVD. Buy your copy today at corbettreport.com. You're listening to The Corbett Report. corbettreport.com.
Welcome back to the broadcast, friends. Welcome back to Corbett Report Radio. Once again, I'm your host, James Corbett of corbettreport.com, and I'm coming to you today, as every day, from the exceptionally sunny climes of Western Japan. And I don't know the best way to do the lighting for this. For those of you watching the video on corbettreport.com, for those of you listening in Radioland, welcome to the broadcast this evening. And tonight we have an interesting conversation lined up for you from north of the border. We're going to be talking to our old friend Dan Dix of pressfortruth.tv, also pressfortruth.ca, also youtube.com/weavingspider. And if you haven't checked out Dan Dix's work yet, well, what are you doing? He's been doing excellent documentaries and excellent video reports and news and updates and interviews for a number of years now, so it's always a pleasure to have him on the program. Dan Dix, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Well, let's go cut straight to the chase and straight to the question that everyone's waiting for. What did you go as for Halloween?
Oh man, you got me. No, I'm not much for much for celebrating the occultic ceremonial the anniversaries. So I tend to stay away from that.
I thought I was the only one. No, I couldn't care less about Halloween, but okay, let's move on to something that really matters, and one of the real reasons for having you on tonight. You have a forthcoming documentary that's about to release. Tell us some details about this.
Yeah, we're getting all set to release our new film, The Turning Point, coming out on Monday, coming to YouTube on Monday, November 5th. And we extensively document the Bilderberg group. Many people might be aware that I attended the meeting in Chantilly, Virginia there a few months back. And just to document the event and provide coverage of the event while we were there, interview some of the members of the independent media who were also there covering the event. And then when we got home from that trip, we decided, you know what, we think we have the solid makings of a really good documentary here. So we started compiling our footage and working on the new film, and we've been going hard on it for the last 4 months, I guess it's been, and that one is just getting set to release this Monday. So we're very, very excited to get this one out there and expose the very secretive elitist group known as the Bilderberg Group.
Excellent. And November 5th, Monday, would there be any coincidence there to that being the day before the puppet presidential election?
No coincidence. We last time we released a film, we released it on a Monday. We wanted to do it in and around that time, so we figured, hey, why not Monday? And we I don't think the election's going to overshadow the release or anything. But
certainly not. But I would hope at least one or two people would find the documentary and maybe change their views on their political puppet of choice.
Absolutely, absolutely. And anybody out there who's getting tired of the false left-right, it's more choreographed than a ballet. What we're seeing, it's just ridiculous. Tune out of that and tune into YouTube on November 5th and watch The Turning Point. It's get away from the circus show and delve into some real information with our new film coming out on Monday.
I just found a new marketing point for you. No, but absolutely, this is such an important documentary because once again, Bilderberg and organizations like it are underlying the political system and have been for decades. And if we are only just starting to learn about them now, it does beg the question of what else are we missing? And the answer to that is something that I think we're all engaged in right now. But we come to a better understanding through documentaries like this. Tell us about some of the people who are going to be appearing in the documentary.
Sure. I had the opportunity to interview people like Luke Radowski, who was obviously there providing his live stream and doing all the great coverage that Luke always does with wearechange.org. I interviewed Adam Kokesh and Mark Dice and just a whole number of people who are involved in independent media in their own unique ways. So as much as it was a Bilderberg, a conference for Bilderberg, it was also like an independent media summit where we all got together to do what we do together. So all those guys are in the film as well.
Excellent. All right, well, let's take a short break. We'll be right back, once again talking to Dan Dix of pressfortruth.ca. Stay tuned right there. We'll be right back. All right, friends, welcome back. Welcome back. Of course, this is Corbett Report Radio, and I am your host, as always, James Corbett of CorbettReport.com. If you're just tuning in tonight, we are talking to Dan Dix from my home and native land of Canada, and tonight we're talking about a forthcoming documentary from Press for Truth called The Turning Point. And once again, for people who don't know Dan Dix and his previous work, of course, his previous documentaries are available online, including Into the Fire and United We Fall. Just some excellent work that he's been doing, documenting various aspects of the coming globalist New World Order paradigm. And so I'm very much looking forward to The Turning Point. Dan, tell us about this, a little bit more about the documentary, the running time, the music selection, anything else you can tell us about some of the background on this.
Sure. Running time wise, we this time around, we wanted to keep it a little shorter than our other films. All of our other films have been feature-length documentaries in and around 2 hours. This one we wanted to keep under an hour, so this one actually runs at 50 minutes, and it's a great way to share this one. You know, you can tell people it's less than an hour of your time, and so it's clocking in at 50 minutes. Music-wise, again, I did all the music for this one, and it's always a fun adventure to get into the studio and compose music for films. I love that aspect of it. So again, all the tunes are done by me on this one. And anyways, what it really delves into is not just the Bilderberg group, the history of the Bilderberg group. We also felt it was important to show the Canadian connection to Bilderberg and point out the fact that they have a huge amount of influence on Canadian politics, the Canadian economy. And so we get into some of the key players who are Canadians who are involved in Bilderberg. So it's the story of Bilderberg kind of mixed in with the Canadian connection to Bilderberg. And then, of course, we point out the fact that it's a turning point for the Bilderberg group. You see, times are changing for groups like CFR, Trilateral, Bilderberg, all these guys, and it's because of the rise of the independent media and the amount of exposure that's coming to them because of alternative media. So it's a turning point for the Bilderberg group, where it's getting more and more difficult now for those kinds of organizations to operate in the shadows because of the rise of independent media. So that in a nutshell is the film without giving too much away. We have some unseen confrontations, like we got a chance to speak with Conrad Black, who was on the steering committee of Bilderberg for over 20 years, I believe. And lots of other good stuff that has not yet been seen. So we've been very excited to finally get this one out there. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what you can expect.
Well, as a Canadian, I'm glad to see a fellow Canadian concentrating on the Canadian aspects of this, because, of course, there is a strong Canadian presence in Bilderberg, and as a human being, I'm excited to see the take on that there is a turning point for organizations like this, and they are the ones running scared to a large extent now, because the people are waking up to all of this. But on that note, we have actually a clip of the trailer, which is now available online. It's at youtube.com/weavingspider. Press for Truth presents The Turning Point official trailer, so you can go there to watch it. But let's take a listen to this trailer.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
Have you ever heard of the Bilderberg Group?
No, never. I don't know too much about that Bilderberg thing.
The Bilderberg?
Bilderberg?
In recent years, the lack of coverage from the mainstream media on the Bilderberg Group has been a problem as far as raising awareness about these conferences.
When people say that, quote, they control the media, they're talking about the secret establishment.
Where's CNN? Where's the mainstream media? Where's Fox, MSNBC? Any of these stations, they are not here.
It's by far the largest Bilderberg protest that I have ever seen. A lot of alternative media, a lot of attention being brought to the Bilderbergers.
Who are the companies they work for? Who else have they worked for? What are their agendas? What are they in the news doing? That will tell you so much about the reach of Bilderberg, about why they invite these people, and about how they put the world together.
I attended one Bilderberg meeting.
I don't know if I was at that meeting. I've only been to a few of them.
I was on that conference circuit for 20 years, the Trilateral Commission, and I went to all of them. The individuals are influential. They don't allow the media in.
It's the billionaire and trillionaire club, and you and I, we're not in it. We're not ever going to be in it. The Bilderberg Group was instrumental in creating the European Union and the euro. I would say that's a pretty big deal.
2012 is a major turning point for the Bilderberg Group, as the independent media have been here providing the coverage that's been lacking from the mainstream.
The mainstream media is no longer mainstream. The alternative is taking over. They're trying their damnedest to either restrict or shut down the free internet as we know it right now.
We've got to expose what's going on here.
These are the real tyrants, so we're identifying them, not the puppet presidents and prime ministers. We're going directly to the financial oligarchs. This information is power. And the truth is setting us free.
When you do things in darkness, they will come to the light, and they are. We're here just to shine that light.
All right, friends, that's some of the trailer for the forthcoming documentary, The Turning Point, which, again, is going to be dropping on Monday, so I hope you are staying tuned to Press for Truth for this documentary. Some of the things that I find very exciting about this is, Dan, some of your recent confrontations that you've been doing on the Bilderberg Group with some star Canadian politicians, including the son of one of the most revered prime ministers of all time. Let's talk about your confrontations with Trudeau and Harris and others.
Sure. Yeah, that wasn't too long ago. A few weeks ago, I heard that Trudeau was going to be at a meet and greet at a hotel in Hamilton, open to the public. So I thought, perfect. Let's get down there and see what he thinks about Bilderberg. His father, former Prime Minister of Canada, was a member, and we know that Justin is going to be running for the leadership of the Liberal Party. So he's no doubt going to be a key player in this. So we thought we'd do a little bit of a preemptive strike, if you will, and get him on the record beforehand. So I just asked him, if you're invited to Bilderberg, are you going to attend? And all he would say is, I'm not here to answer questions. I'm not here to talk about Bilderberg. This is not the time or place for a question like that. And I told him, look, this is exactly the time and place for that. Just one simple statement, anything on Bilderberg. And he just said, look, I'm not here to talk about Bilderberg. But I think it's good to still get it on the record that someone like him is not willing to answer a simple question about whether or not he would attend the Bilderberg conference. With Mike Harris, I was actually working on a video filming down at Queen's Park. That one just fell right into my lap. It wasn't planned at all. We were already rolling. The camera was rolling. I had my wireless mic hooked up, and all of a sudden, bam, Mike Harris is right there in front of me. So it just kind of fell right into my lap. So I just walked right up to him. Luckily, Brian was already rolling. So that's just kind of how it worked out. And I also asked him, what sorts of things do you guys talk about there? What do you think? And he just said, they have a strict policy of secrecy, and so that's what I think about it. And basically walked away. So again, he showed where his true allegiance lies. And, sometimes in hindsight, you look back and I say, oh man, I wish I had followed up and said, well, don't you see something wrong with that, sir? But sometimes on the moment, it's hard to be to be quick like that. But still, he showed where his true allegiance lies, and that he's not looking out for the best interests of the Canadian people, but he's simply doing the bidding of his Bilderberg overlords.
Unfortunately so. And again, for the Americans or others in the crowd, these are some pretty big-name Canadian politicians. Former Premier of Ontario, Mike Harris, and Justin Trudeau, as you mentioned, the son of Pierre Trudeau, so one of the rising stars of the political aristocracy there in Canada. So it is good that there are people that are doing the types of things that we see We Are Change doing in the US, for example, on a regular basis. It's good to see that happening in Canada as well, because, again, it is that point of the turning point that these politicians have to be made aware that, yes, they are being watched, they are being held accountable for their actions in helping to destroy the sovereignty of our respective countries. Well, any other thoughts that you have about the way that not just the politicians are handling this, but of course there's a corporate side to this, there's the aristocratic side with the royalty that attend these conferences. How does this all mesh into one big system, and what is your take on how the people can start to affect that system?
Well, I think the first thing that people need to do is to become aware that there's a problem with the system in the first place. It's remarkable, really, how Bilderberg has managed to stay in the shadows for so many years. I remember when I first covered my first Bilderberg conference, it was back in 2006, and back then it was just myself, Alex Jones was there, Daniel Estulon was there, and other than us three, there was maybe 10 protesters or so. However, that is changing, as we're saying, is that 6 years later, here in Chantilly, Virginia, on one of the busier days, there had to have been 1,000 people at least there. So things are coming around, but we're still at a point in regards to Bilderberg where awareness is absolutely key. So I think that's why we decided to make a documentary. I mean, we originally just thought we'd come back and throw together a little 10-minute YouTube video, but we felt this is a lot more important and deserves a lot more time and attention. So I would say that's one of the more important things right now, is to raise awareness about the issue in the first place. I mean, nothing will ever change around here until there's enough people who realize that something needs to be changed in the first place. So I think we're still at a point in regards to Bilderberg where awareness is absolutely key.
That's exactly right, because more and more the online citizens media is setting the agenda for the news services, and they can only hide and cover up things as long as people are ignorant of them. So I think this is absolutely essential, that we have to do a complete end run around the mainstream news and start to inform ourselves and each other. So I'm glad to see, once again, Press for Truth stepping into that void. Once again, let's take a short break, and we'll be right back, continuing our conversation with Dan Dix, pressfortruth.ca. All right, friends, welcome back. Once again, this is Corbett Report Radio, and tonight we are talking to Dan Dix of pressfortruth.tv, pressfortruth.ca, youtube.com/weavingspider. Again, all of those links will be in the show notes for tonight's episode at corbettreport.com, so you can go there to check that out and to find links to all of this, including the trailer for the forthcoming documentary that Dan Dix has just completed, The Turning Point, which is going to be talking about Bilderberg 2012 and the Canadian aspects of Bilderberg. And perhaps myself have been so far immersed into this knowledge and information for so long that I can't even really imagine that people don't know about Bilderberg, because I'm so immersed in it. But here we are talking about the Bilderberg conference and your confrontations about it, etc., and we haven't even really explained to the audience what Bilderberg is. So for those people out there in the audience, there are always new people tuning in. Those people out there who have never heard about Bilderberg, let's just give some background information about what it is and why it's important.
Yeah, good point. Let's take it back to the very beginning. Bilderberg started in 1954, and it was really just a kind of a meeting of the minds. They didn't even really have a name at the time. They met in Oosterbeek, Netherlands in 1954 at the Hotel Bilderberg, and so that's where they decided to get their name from. And the goal was to bring together the brightest minds in politics, military, finance, and media to discuss issues off the record. And they always said from the beginning, the nature of the meetings are secretive so that they can speak frankly. and that they cannot worry about the bright lights of publicity, and that they can feel that they can speak their mind about these things. And over the years, it has developed into a rather large conference that takes place once a year, every year. On average, it's roughly around 120 to 130 people are invited, and they hold the meetings either in North America or Europe. And it's important to remember that you have to get invited to attend the Bilderberg conference. The lineup changes every year, but generally there's usually the same people on the steering committee of Bilderberg who are responsible for kind of scouting out and recruiting new members to invite, depending on what sorts of topics are going to be discussed that particular year. And because there's no meetings of the minutes that are published, a lot of people speculate about this and that and what kinds of things might have been said. It's always hard to tell, but in my experience, if you pay attention to who is attending, you can have a better idea of what sorts of things they may be discussing, and have a better way of seeing what may come out of this in the near future, just by simply paying attention to who is attending these conferences. So that's basically it. This is one of the major think tanks that are up there, along the same lines as the CFR and those kinds of groups, but even a little bit more secretive. So that's basically what it is. And as I said, they've been doing this in the shadows for so long. But that is all changing now with with the rise of the independent media. So again, it brings us back to the fact that this is a turning point for the Bilderberg Group, and things are going to change for them very, very soon.
Exactly right, and it's not even just the independent media that's coming up on the internet. It's the internet itself that is really exposing some of this. It strikes me when I'm doing this research, I'll come across some just little hidden gems. For example, recently I came across a Washington Post article from, I believe, 1963 or somewhere around there that's now archived online, and so you can go and read it. And it's talking about attendees of the 1963 Bilderberg conference, and confirmed a few of the names in there, which I was using for one of my reports. And it strikes me that just little gems like that are just so incredible that I, sitting here in my living room in Japan, now have access to this historical information that really, I mean, back in the day, maybe the people who read that report would have known that information, but they wouldn't have been able to place it into any sort of context or do any of the other type of work that we can now do instantly and virtually for free online. It's just an absolutely incredible, mind-boggling age to live in. So I think the turning point has been reached in a number of different ways, which again is why this documentary is so important for waking people up to this new paradigm. Tell people again about how they can get this documentary.
Sure. It's going to be available on YouTube, but we are going to be releasing this one this weekend for members at pressfortruth.tv. To get a early look at it, and it'll be available for download in high quality from pressfortruth.tv for members. So you can go there if you'd like to see the film before the rest of the world. But then, of course, it'll be coming to YouTube on Monday. And we are putting this film out for free online on Monday on YouTube. But we've also made a DVD of this film. I have it here for your viewers. You can see what that looks like. And as we do with all of our DVDs, we made a special feature on this one, explaining kind of the making of the film, the making of the soundtrack, and what the whole process was like in regards to editing this particular project. It was a little different this time around from how we have done it on previous projects. So we explain all that in the special feature there in the extras. So that's another great way to show your support for Press for Truth is absolutely to get the DVD. But certainly if you want to just wait and watch it online, you can do that on Monday. But again, we'd encourage you guys to get the hard copy. We encourage you to burn copies of it, hand them out, make thousands of them. Give them to your friends and family and strangers. It's a great way to spread the word.
Exactly right, and of course if we don't support this alternative media that's bringing this information, it will not be able to flourish. So absolutely, I hope people will get their copy. Once again, let's take another short break. We'll be back with Dan Dix right after these messages. All right, friends, we're back here live this Thursday night on Corbett Report Radio. And just as a reminder for people out there listening, we will not be live on Friday night, any Friday night this month, as I am preparing for my presentation to a 9/11 conference that's going to be happening in Malaysia later this month. So once again, I will be getting details of that to you as soon as they're available to me. But yes, so I'm going to be busy preparing for that and hopefully making a very good presentation to the folks there. But let's continue talking to Dan Dix, pressfortruth.tv, pressfortruth.ca, but perhaps we should make the distinction, pressfortruth.ca and pressfortruth.tv. Pressfortruth.tv is the membership site. Just tell people again a little bit about that and what they get with that membership.
Yeah, sure. We wanted to provide that for people who are constantly asking me how can we support you, and so we set up pressfortruth.tv. And basically, members at .tv get access to high-quality downloads of all the films and all the music, and plus you get access to the daily video blogs. And we're still working on stepping up our game there at .tv, and going to be very soon in the near future working on taking the production value to a new level and getting the content better, and just trying to bring the dailies to where I'd like them to be. But that's what that one's all about. So everything always goes on pressfortruth.ca. But members can get access to download stuff in high quality and catch every single daily from Monday to Friday every day there at .tv. So that's just another great way to show your support for the work that we're doing.
Exactly right. Well, of course, Bilderberg is very much top of the agenda at the moment, and we obviously the new documentary is going to be bringing that hopefully to a lot more people's attention. But of course, a lot of other aspects of the police state we see unfolding like a nightmare in the legislative process there in Canada. Let's talk about some of the latest information, including a new bill that you just told me about just before we went on air. I hadn't even heard of yet, about wearing masks.
Yeah, it just came out today that Bill C-309 passed the House. It's on its way to the Senate, where they're trying to make it illegal for wearing masks at what they call an unlawful assembly. So if, say, a protest descends into a riot or something like that, they would then begin arresting anyone who conceals their identity. But the obvious problems with that is that they can easily abuse that to shut down any legitimate protest, whether using provocateurs or not. All it takes is one idiot in the crowd to do something, throw something at the cop or something, then all of a sudden they can declare it an unlawful assembly. And of course, there's all these gray areas there. You know, is wearing some makeup going to be considered a mask? Is wearing a scarf in the dead of winter at a Canadian protest going to be considered a mask? And some people who wear masks don't have any intent of doing any kind of criminal activity. They want to remain anonymous from the facial recognition cameras that are at these things. They sometimes want to protect themselves from the chemical agents that police use, like tear gas and pepper spray. So this hasn't been officially made into law yet. It's going to the Senate, but it just passed. It was voted on today and passed the House, so it's getting closer to actually becoming law, which I think is ridiculous, because I have a feeling the police here in Canada are going to abuse this bill to shut down and silence dissent.
Unfortunately so. Again, it's just a crazy thing to even contemplate that they're making legislation about this type of activity. But then again, of course, we saw what was happening at the G20, as you documented so well in Into the Fire, about people, for example, being stopped for simply wearing bandanas, etc. And we saw some of that, and some people have been fighting back against that. Of course, we had a conversation with Nicholas Wright on GRTV last year, I believe, about his ongoing lawsuit or it was earlier this year, I believe, his lawsuit against the Toronto police for that. So again, unfortunately, they're trying to make legislation around this type of tyranny and trying to bring it into law. And of course, another bill that a lot of people are talking about right now is Bill C-30, the warrantless spying act, but I can't remember the official title. What is it? Protecting Children Against Internet Predators Act, or some ridiculous doublespeak legislation like that. Tell us a little bit about that and what the latest is.
Yeah, they've been using some wordplay shenanigans. It used to be called Lawful Access Bill, but people quickly learned that this would allow the authorities to tap into your phones, your emails, monitor your internet activity without having to obtain a warrant. So a lot of privacy advocacy groups made a loud noise about this one. And so the public safety minister, Vic Taves, tried to rebrand the thing, and that's when he changed it to the Protecting Children from Internet Predators Act, obviously a ploy to say, look, you're for protecting children, aren't you? You don't want children to you don't want internet predators going after children, don't you? Well, the people didn't fall for that wordplay either, and so now it's just being referred to as Bill C-30. And back when it was kind of shelved, when people were making a big fuss about it, was nearly 8 months ago now. So they're trying to reintroduce this one now, possibly hoping that people aren't paying attention anymore. But it's the same thing. It's an attempt to block the free flow of information online and to monitor and track, trace, and database just about every single thing everyone is doing. And a lot of us know that this is potentially going to be used against the activist community, the independent media, protesters. So it's a grave concern for us here in Canada. So absolutely, we got to bring some awareness to the fact that they're trying to push through this Bill C-30, which is not going to be good for anyone here.
Well, again, to my mind, it's the type of thing, even if you trusted that this particular government at this particular time wouldn't abuse that power, and that the people who are, in the positions to actually use this power in the police departments, for example, would use it like perfect angels, you're not only trusting this particular batch of people to do that, but you're trusting every subsequent batch that could ever come into that position of power not to abuse that authority. And the question is, why do we need that authority in the first place? We already have legislation and rules in place that if they just go and get a warrant for this type of information, it doesn't matter. They can get the information. So why do they need this end run around the warrant? It's just so in-your-face, open instantiation of tyranny that I don't know how they can possibly defend it.
And not only that, but they want to set up the infrastructure so that, because they don't have the software currently to monitor in real time. So that's something that they want to do. And all these companies are going to have to change their systems, install all this new software. No doubt it's going to run into the millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And this is all going to be paid for by the Canadian taxpayer. So the Canadian people are quite literally going to be funding their own enslavement here through this thing. That's another important aspect of this one as well.
I would love to just dismiss that statement with a what else is new, but again, that would downplay the seriousness of all of this and the fact that there are so many people who don't understand that they are paying for their own enslavement every day with all of these taxes going to all of these ridiculous tyrannical organizations and laws and all of this that they're trying to bring in. And I would just direct people to a bizarre, ridiculous YouTube video I saw recently from the Vancouver Police Department, I believe, that put out a Vancouver Police Department confirms Canadians' top 5 fears about the Bill C-30. And it's structured as if they're going to be talking about the ways that people will abuse this power, but of course it's oh, we really need this power because there was a woman who was robbed of her cell phone, no, there was a woman who was robbed and she got the attacker's cell phone, and so the police went to the cell phone company and was asking if they could get the records on the cell phone, and they said they wouldn't give the information without a warrant, so we had to go get a warrant, and it cost us all this time, blah blah blah. And putting out this ridiculous fear-mongering story about why we suddenly need this end run around the basic legislative process. So again, it is stupid, but it goes to show just how far I think the goalposts have moved in recent years, especially, of course, after 9/11 and the beginnings of that police state propaganda that we've been fed for the past decade. I mean, can you speak to the fact just how far the Canadian mindset has moved? I mean, we know a lot about the Americans and how a lot of people have bought onto the DHS and TSA tyranny. How about Canada? How is that playing into all of this?
Well, no doubt. People around here are beginning to wake up. It's it's a slow process, but it is happening. Like I said, I first noticed that with the comparison of how many people knew about Bilderberg just 6 years ago. So yeah, people are coming around here, but you know, we just got to keep doing what we're doing and plugging away, you know, every day as best we can, because you know, spreading awareness is like dropping a pebble in a pond. You know, you get that ripple effect, and it continues to spread. So I think maybe we're still somewhat, the movement here in Canada is still somewhat in its infancy, but it's really beginning to take off. So I have a lot of hope for the future of Canadians waking up in particular, because it seems like we're just at that kind of that fork in the road, if you will, where things are really about to take off, and I certainly have hope that that they will.
I hope so too, but speaking of more police state measures, I see you recently had a video about BC teen arrested for photographing RCMP. Tell us about that story.
Yeah, sure. Just heard about that one a few days ago, and managed to get a hold of this young man. He's a young aspiring journalist, wants to get into the field of journalism, and so this is a young guy at a mall in BC who did what any good young aspiring journalist would do, is to document what he felt was a newsworthy event. There was a man who was tackled by mall security guards, and so he pulled out his camera and started taking photos. And that's when they grabbed him and forced him to the ground, told him he'd have to leave. And as he was walking out, he took one more picture of the RCMP, and that's when they said, "Get him!" and they jumped on him and officially, you know, handcuffed him and arrested him. But the bottom line is, he did nothing wrong. There's a little bit of a gray area there with it being private property, yet a public space at the same time. But there's no trespassing signs. There's no filming signs. I mean, there's people in malls taking pictures of their kids and filming all the time. So unless you inform them, I mean, just anybody is trespassing at any given time, and you could just arrest them for filming. You have to explain to them what they're doing wrong, and he did not get that. So they're now, I believe they're working on organizing a kind of a flash mob of photography, where they want to arrange for a lot of photographers to show up in that area, in that mall, not to cause any problems, but just to make the point that when you go after the free press like this, the people will stand up, the people will fight back, they'll band together and fight back. So yeah, I just interviewed that young man the other day. People can check that out as well at pressfortruth.tv, and I got it on the homepage right now at pressfortruth.ca as well, if anyone wants to see that interview.
Well, again, of course, all of this brings to mind the question of what people can do as a type of solution. And I think that often we're presented with false templates, false political templates of how we can motivate and bring people together on these issues as a way of trying to distract people. And perfect example is what's happening in the US right now in the run-up to the puppet election, where people think that casting a vote for, you know, candidate D or candidate R is going to make any difference whatsoever in the underlying agenda. Of course, we know that's not the case. Again, in Canada, it doesn't matter if you're going to vote for a Harper or a Trudeau. If they both attend Bilderberg at some point in the future, then what difference does it really make? So what can you say about that underlying structure behind the political process, and what does that mean for the type of political action that would have any meaning in this rigged game?
Well, like you said, I'm along the same lines as you, where, you know, we can't continue to look to government to solve the problems of government, and people are starting to realize the false left-right paradigm here, and that democracy in general is turning into this illusion of choice, and it's such a tool to be used to manipulate the people into thinking that they are taking part in the process, they are having an effect. But as we've seen time and time again, a vote for one side or a vote for the other is a vote for Bilderberg, or is a vote for Goldman Sachs, or is a vote for the Illuminati. Call them what you want them, but both sides are often you know, more choreographed than a ballet. I think the first time I really woke up to that was back during the race between George Bush and John Kerry. And when I learned about, that they're both members of Skull and Bones, very secretive society where only 15 members get chosen a year. And then lo and behold, these two guys who are a part of the same secret society at Yale University end up running against each other for the presidency of the United States. So it's a huge sham. I think we're being played for a bunch of fools. But at the same time, there are good people in politics. I mean, Ron Paul is a good example. He had an amazing run there. But I just don't know if looking to vote somebody in is the answer. That's...
Well, you've talked to people like Adam Kokesh, and of course Stefan Molyneux is there in Canada as well. There's a growing anti-statist movement in Canada, and I must admit I've fallen off the statist bandwagon in recent years as well. I just do not think that voting for another person to take the reins of power is going to be the ultimate solution. What's your take on that? Are you still on the political treadmill, or do you think that the solutions have to come from home?
I'm leaning more towards to what you're saying as well, James. I'm losing more and more faith, I guess you could say, in the political system in that sense, and it has to be ground up, grassroots. I mean, that's the only way that anything is really going to get done here. I would like to refer people to your video, The Last Word on Voting. I think that really nailed it on the head, and if anybody wants to learn more about what we're talking about right now, go check out James's video, The Last Word on Voting. I thought you did a really good job at summing it all up in that video. And I couldn't agree more with everything you said in that video. I'm leaning in that direction as well, James.
Well, how does the old joke go? What's the difference between a minarchist and an anarchist? About a year, if he's being honest, something like that. Unfortunately, it is true. I think once you start to question the fundamental precept of giving these people the power, then it's not too far to go to question why that power needs to exist at all. And I hope more people will check into that philosophy, because honestly, I think that we have to start concentrating on building up the alternative communities we want, rather than just fighting back against the tyranny that they're throwing at us. But on that note, once again, we're coming up against our final break, so we'll be back after this to talk a little bit more with Dan Dix about anything else he's working on and what's coming up in the future for Press for Truth. So don't touch that dial. We will be right back after these messages. Alright friends, welcome back. Here we are in the final moments of tonight's edition of Corbett Report Radio. Once again, we've been talking to Dan Dix of pressfortruth.ca and pressfortruth.tv. Once again, I hope you will go and check that out, and at the very least, check out the trailer for the forthcoming documentary on the Bilderberg, The Turning Point, which will be being released online on Monday. If you are a pressfortruth.tv member, you will be able to get a sneak peek of it this weekend, so I'm very much looking forward to that, being a pressfortruth.tv member myself, and I hope other people will join and help support the work that's coming out there. And again, just so much information coming out from Dan Dix. He is a very busy man. But Dan, I've been peppering you with questions tonight. Anything else that you've been working on that you'd like to draw people's attention to, or anything coming up that you'd like to get people prepared for?
Oh man, I got a lot of big, exciting things in the works, but not so much that I can talk about now, because nothing's officially solidly confirmed yet. But all I can say is people need to stay tuned to Press for Truth, because we're really going to be stepping up our game in the next few months, if not early next year. Again, as I said, taking our production value to a whole new level, introducing more content, and just trying to get better. I mean, I'm constantly just trying to get better at what I do, and we have some things in the works now. Again, it's possibly a little too soon to mention, but I can say that things are going to be changing around here for the better. That's for sure. So people can just stay tuned to pressfortruth.ca. You'll start seeing some of the changes. And if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe there to youtube.com/weavingspider. And in the very, very near future, our videos are going to be just getting better as best as we can, really.
Excellent. Well, a nice little teaser there. So again, I hope people will be checking that out. All right, Dan, anything you'd like to say in conclusion tonight about the Bilderberg or the new documentary?
Again, we're very excited to finally get this one out there. So we're really hoping people will watch it, and not only watch it, share the link, spread it around, share the YouTube link. You know, put it on your Facebooks, tweet it out on your Twitter, email it to your friends, and just help us get the word out about the Bilderberg Group. Again, this is a very comprehensive, solid little documentary, under an hour. Yeah, we're just very excited to get this one out there, and we're hoping that people will spread the word about this one, because as we've seen, it's of incredible importance to expose the Bilderberg Group.
It really is, and as I say, I'm looking forward to it myself. I'm a big fan of your work, so I'm pleased to see that there's more coming out, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So on that note, I think we'll leave it there. Dan Dix, pressfortruth.ca, pressfortruth.tv. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
All right, man. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you later.
All right, there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Dix. Once again, I hope you will check out his work if you haven't yet done so. Just a lot of great work coming out there at Press for Truth. And on that note, that's going to do it for us for tonight, and in fact for this week. Once again, it'll be a rebroadcast tomorrow night. I will be back on Monday with all new episodes of this radio program, and we'll be exploring some very interesting topics next week, so I hope you'll stay tuned for that. And until then, thank you all for listening. So that's it for me. Thanks for listening, and take care.